My name is Megan Trent. I'm 24 years old. And on the biggest day of my life, I sat in a graduation hall with 2,000 people, looked left at the family section, and counted 4 empty chairs with my name on them. When I called my mother from the parking lot, she laughed. I could hear a Bon Jovi song in the background, wine glasses touching, her voice already warmed by something she was celebrating. She said, "Honey, we already have one success in the family. We didn't think you'd actually finish." My father said nothing. He didn't take the phone. 6 months later, I sent them one photograph. No caption, no message, just one image. My mother called me 47 times in a single hour. I know the exact number because I watched every call roll in from the front porch of a house that belonged to me, a house I bought without them, a house where the mortgage is in my name, the key is on my ring, and the lock on the back door is a commercial deadbolt my father installed 3 weeks ago without being asked. I didn't answer a single one of those calls. Before I tell you what was in that photograph, I need to take you back. Not just to graduation day, but further. Because the empty chairs in that hall weren't the beginning of this story. They were just the day I finally stopped pretending there was a different one. The morning of my graduation, I woke up at 5:50. Not because I set an alarm, because I'd been awake since 4. I lived in a studio apartment on the east side of Hartwell, 360 square feet, one window that faced a parking structure, a bathroom barely wide enough to turn around in. I'd been there 2 years. I knew every creak in the floor, every draft under the door. I put on my cap and gown in the bathroom, which was the only place with a mirror wide enough to see the full effect. The gown was a deep blue. The cap kept sliding forward. I tried to zip the back by myself and the zipper snagged on the fabric lining. I looked around. No one there to help. I found a wire hanger on the rod above the toilet, the kind the dry cleaners send back with your clothes, the kind everyone keeps meaning to throw out. I bent the hook through the zipper pull, reached back over my shoulder, and worked it up until it caught. It took about 3 tries. That was fine. I had time. I was a first-generation college student, accounting major at Del Mar University, graduating magna cum laude after 4 years of double shifts, ramen for dinner twice a week, and a GPA I never let drop below a 3.7. I understood compound interest before I understood why it mattered. I understood spreadsheets before I understood what they were trying to tell me. Numbers were the first language I spoke where no one could interrupt me. I checked my phone. 3 messages to my mother over the past week, all about today. Monday. Ceremony is Saturday at 10 a.m. I have 4 seats reserved, she replied. We'll see. Wednesday. Just confirming you and Dad and Devin are coming, right? A thumbs up emoji. Nothing else. Friday night. Tomorrow's the day. I'm so excited. Love you guys. Read at 9:47 p.m. No response. I took a photo of myself in the cap and gown and sent it to the family group chat. Devin reacted with a fire emoji. My parents, nothing. Not a heart. Not a word. Somewhere around this time, my mother would have been on the phone with her friend from church. I know, because she told me later what she'd said. Someone had asked about me, how's Megan doing? And my mother had answered the way she always did. Oh, she's fine. She's always fine. It wasn't unkind. That's the thing that took me years to understand. She wasn't being cruel. She genuinely believed it. She had sorted me, early and efficiently, into a category marked no action required. I was Megan. I managed. I was fine. I grabbed my diploma holder, a cheap plastic sleeve I'd bought at the campus bookstore, and drove to Del Mar. The parking lot was already full when I got there. Families everywhere. Mothers with bouquets, fathers in their good shirts, little siblings carrying handmade signs. I told myself this is different. A graduation isn't something you can reschedule. I had 4 reserved seats in the family section. By the end of that morning, 3 of them were still empty. You need the full picture to understand what those empty chairs meant. I graduated high school at 18 with a 3.9 gigapascals. I was accepted to Del Mar University with a partial scholarship, $8,000 a year toward tuition. The rest I'd need to cover myself, roughly $12,000 annually. I brought the acceptance letter home on a Tuesday in March, set it on the kitchen table. My mother picked it up, read it, set it back down. We don't have money for that, Megan. Same month, same kitchen. My father and mother bought my brother Devin a pickup truck. Crew cab, lift kit, custom paint job, $36,000. Devin was 21 and working the register at an auto parts store. He was still living at home, rent-free, sleeping in his childhood bedroom, with the football trophies still on the shelf. I stood in the driveway and watched them hand him the keys. My mother took photos with her phone, holding it sideways the way she did for important pictures. My father clapped Devin on the back, grinning. Devin revved the engine once and the whole block heard it. 36,000 for a truck. 0 for my tuition. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started searching for full-time work. For 2 years, 18 to 20, I worked morning and evening shifts at a grocery store in town. I saved $14,000 in a savings account my parents didn't know existed. I lived at home. I ate the meals my mother cooked. I watched Devin come and go in that truck while I took the bus. When I turned 20, I enrolled at Del Mar. I paid my own tuition, my own books, my own meal plan. My parents didn't sign a single check. My father drove past the campus every week on his way to a job site. He never stopped in. Not once in 4 years. They didn't have money for my education. They had money for his truck. Those are two different sentences. I spent 2 years pretending they were the same one. College was 4 years of halves. Half student, half employee. 25 hours a week at the campus library, shelving books and scanning student IDs. Full course load every semester. I never missed a deadline. I never asked for an extension. Every holiday I come home, and every holiday played the same. Thanksgiving junior year. My mother spent 40 minutes of dinner talking about Devin's raise 50 cents more an hour at the auto parts store. When I mentioned I'd made the dean's list again, she said, "That's nice, honey. Can you help me set the table?" I had brought home a certificate. Outstanding student in accounting for the 3rd consecutive semester. I'd framed it myself at the dollar store, a plain black frame, $5. My mother put it on the refrigerator with a magnet. Below, a photograph of Devin standing next to his truck at a car show, both of them grinning at the camera. The next morning, the certificate had fallen. Nobody picked it up. I found it face down behind the trash can. My father visited Devin at the store every Thursday without fail. Brought him coffee. I talked about inventory. Leaned against the counter for an hour, like he had nowhere else to be. He never visited me at school. 43 minutes by highway. I checked it on Google Maps once, just to confirm it wasn't further than I thought. 43 minutes. 4 years. 0 visits. There was one phone call, junior year, a Wednesday night. My father's name lit up my screen and my heart actually jumped. I answered on the first ring. "Hey, listen. One of my clients needs an electrician, somebody on the cheap. You know anyone at the school?" That was it. That was the call. I gave him a name from the campus maintenance board. He said thanks and hung up. 14 seconds total. I know because I'd glanced at the clock when I saw his name, startled enough that my hand moved on its own. My father called once every 4 years, and it was to ask for a referral. I kept that detail somewhere quiet inside me. The way you keep a receipt for something you never plan to return but can't quite throw away. Here's what they got right. And this is the part I've had to sit with. My parents weren't monsters. They were people with a fixed idea of what success looked like. In their version, Devin was already living it employed, visible, loud in the way they understood. And I was something else. Something quieter and harder to read. A daughter who managed things on her own and therefore, in their logic, didn't need to be managed toward anything. She's fine. That was the category I lived in. No action required. And I had helped build that category. Every time I didn't ask for help. Every time I didn't say I'm not fine actually. I'm working 3 jobs and sleeping 6 hours a night, and I still want you to come to my graduation. Every time I decided it was easier to handle things myself than to explain why I needed someone to show up. I had been so capable for so long that they had forgotten to wonder whether capable meant okay. That's not an excuse for what they did. It's just the full picture, and you need it because what happened next only makes sense if you understand that I was not some stranger they neglected. I was their daughter, and for 24 years they had simply gotten comfortable with the idea that I would always be fine. On graduation morning, I drove to campus, parked my car, and told myself, this is the one they can't ignore. This is proof. 4 reserved seats. 3 still empty. Inside the hall, the noise was enormous. 2,000 graduates, twice that many families in the stands. Somewhere a baby was crying. A man whistled so loud it echoed off the rafters. I found my row, smoothed my gown over my knees, and looked up at the family section, roped off. Printed name cards on every chair. I could see the 4 chairs labeled Trent from where I sat. All 4 empty. I texted my mother, Ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Are you close? 2 blue check marks, no reply. I texted Devin. Hey, are mom and dad on their way? 3 dots appeared. Then, I don't know, I'm at work. His store closed early on Saturdays. We both knew that. At 9:55, a woman appeared at the Trent seats, not my mother. Professor June Aldrich, 61 years old, silver hair pinned back, wearing the blazer she only brought out for formal occasions. She set a small bunch of yellow tulips on the chair beside her and sat down. She caught my eye across the hall and gave me a single nod. I found out later she had called my mother the day before to confirm attendance. My mother had said she had a family thing. Professor Aldrich didn't ask what that meant. She just bought tulips and drove 40 minutes to the ceremony alone. When they called my name, Megan Marie Trent, Bachelor of Science in Accounting, magna cum laude, walked across the stage. The applause was polite, general. No scream from the stands, no air horn, no sign with my face on it. Just Professor Aldrich's voice, clear and certain, from the family section. That's my student. I held my diploma cover and kept walking. The parking lot afterward was everything I had imagined it might be for someone else. Families everywhere. Crying, hugging, posing in front of the university banner. A father hoisted his daughter onto his shoulders. A grandmother held a cake with the graduate's face printed in frosting. I sat on a bench near the east exit and called my mother. She picked up on the second ring. I could hear laughter, a restaurant's noise, that same Bon Jovi song. Oh, hi, honey, we're at Ambrosia's. Devin got promoted, isn't that amazing? Assistant manager. I closed my eyes. Mom, my graduation was today. Silence. 3 full seconds. Honey, we already have one success in the family. We didn't think you'd actually finish. I heard my father's voice in the background, muffled. Tell her we'll take her to dinner next week. I opened Instagram on my phone. My mother's most recent post, time-stamped 2 hours earlier, right as the ceremony was starting. A photo of her, my father, and Devin at a restaurant. Bread basket, wine glasses. Devin grinning. The caption, so proud of our boy. Assistant manager at 27. Hard work pays off. 43 likes. Heart emojis from relatives I hadn't heard from in months. I didn't say anything else. I ended the call. The parking lot emptied around me. A custodian pushed a broom through the confetti near the entrance. Professor Aldrich had left the tulips on my passenger seat with a handwritten note. First of many. I placed my diploma on the seat beside them, the passenger seat where my mother would have sat. That night, I sat in my apartment with every light off except the desk lamp. On the nightstand was the only family photo I owned, a barbecue from when I was 14. All 4 of us in the backyard. My mother in the center, my father behind her, Devin to her right. I was on the edge. Half my shoulder was cut off by the frame. I did the math. 6 years since high school. 2 working at the grocery store. 4 at Del Mar. Total I had spent on my own education, $47,000. Tuition, books, rent, groceries, transportation. Money from my parents, 0. Money from relatives, 0. Scholarship, roughly $8,000 a year. The rest was mine. Every dollar earned standing behind a register or scanning library books, $47,000. And they went to Ambrosia's. The second betrayal came 2 months later. My father's 55th birthday. My mother threw a party in the backyard, folding tables, coolers of beer, a sheet cake from the supermarket. Aunt Janet came. Uncle Ray. Neighbors from the block. Maybe 20 people. I hadn't been to the house in months. But it was my father's birthday. And some stubborn arithmetic part of me still believed that certain days counted for something. So I drove over with a bottle of wine and a card. My mother opened the door and looked me up and down. Oh, you came. Now I'm glad you're here. Now we miss you. Just oh. I found a seat next to Aunt Janet, who squeezed my hand under the table without saying anything. After the burgers, my father stood up to say a few words. He thanked everyone for coming. He talked about family, about hard work. And I'm especially proud of Devin, he said, lifting his bottle. Building his career, stepping up at that store. That's what this family is about, rolling up your sleeves and getting it done. 20 people raised their drinks. I raised mine too, on reflex. He didn't say my name. Not once. Not a mention of my graduation, my degree, my job. Nothing. Aunt Janet leaned over. Her voice was barely a breath. He didn't even say your name. I kept my face still, took a sip. Then Devin opened his mouth. He was 3 beers in, leaning back in his chair, riding the warmth of our father's toast. Yeah, he said, loud enough for the whole table. Dad taught me everything I know. Meanwhile, Megan spent 6 years learning how to use a calculator. Laughter. Not everyone, but enough. Uncle Ray chuckled. The neighbor from across the fence smirked. My father shook his head with a half grin the way men do when something lands and they won't say they thought it was funny. My mother didn't correct him. She smiled. Soft, indulgent. The kind of smile you give a child who says something accidentally inappropriate, as if it were charming rather than cruel. A neighbor, the woman who'd asked after me when I arrived, turned to my mother later near the dessert table. How's Megan doing these days? My mother glanced across the yard to where I was standing. Oh, she's fine. You know how she is independent. As if independence meant I didn't need anything from anyone. As if being capable was a reason to be left out. I set my fork down. I looked at Devin. Keep my voice level. 6 years of calculators, a degree, and a job. You're welcome to visit my office if you want to see what I do with them. The table went quiet. Devin's grin stiffened. Whoa, chill, Nor. It was a joke. My mother cut in. Megan, don't ruin your father's birthday. There it was. The reflex. Protect the golden child. Scold the other one. In front of 20 people, the pattern held perfectly. I nodded. You're right. Happy birthday, Dad. I turned back to my plate. Aunt Janet's hand found mine under the table. One firm squeeze. Don't you dare shrink, she whispered. I finished my dinner. I helped clear the dessert plates. Then I left quietly through the side gate before anyone could ask me to stay. I drove home with both hands on the wheel, gripping harder than I needed to. Not because I was sad. Because I was finally, completely clear. That night, I sat at my kitchen table until midnight. No music, no TV, just the sound of the refrigerator humming and the neighbor's dog barking twice and then going quiet. On the table in front of me, the family photo face up, the wire hanger I'd hung back on the closet rod that morning without thinking about it. A legal pad where I'd been writing numbers, $47,000. 6 years. One phone call from my father in 4 years of college, and it was to ask for a referral. 4 reserved seats. 3 empty. 6 years of calculators, Devin had said, and everyone had laughed. And my mother had smiled her soft smile, and my father had said nothing, and I had raised my glass on reflex because that was what I had always done in that family, reflex over honesty, keeping the peace over naming the pattern. I picked up the family photo. I looked at it for a long time. Then I laid it face down on the table. I didn't throw it away, I just turned it over. It wasn't dramatic. I didn't feel a surge of righteous energy, or the clean relief I'd imagined I might. I just felt tired. Tired in a specific way, the way you feel when you've been carrying something heavy for so long you'd forgotten you were carrying it, and then you finally set it down, and your arms ache from the absence of the weight. I had been waiting for a verdict from a judge who never showed up to court, not just on graduation day. For 6 years, maybe longer, every dean's list that got "that's nice, honey." Every holiday dinner where I came home with something good and left carrying it back with me, unchanged. Every text is every call I made that my father answered with a task. Every birthday card with the wrong age on it 2 years running, then 3. I had kept applying for their approval the way you keep filling out a form after the deadline has passed, because somewhere in the back of your mind you still believe they'll process it. They wouldn't. I finally understood that. Not because they were cruel, but because they had genuinely organized their world in a way that didn't include space for my achievement. I wasn't in their story of what success looked like. I could keep trying to write myself in. Or I could close the book. I opened my laptop and updated my resume. I didn't delete them from my phone. I didn't block anyone. I just stopped dialing. And for the first time in 6 years, the energy I had been spending on waiting, on hoping, on preparing for conversations that never came, I kept it. I held on to it like a deposit I'd finally stopped lending out. 2 weeks of silence. No calls from me, no texts. The group chat sat still. Then my mother called. Honey, we feel terrible about the graduation. Let's do dinner this weekend. The whole family. I said yes. I don't know why. Habit. Maybe. Or the last flicker of something old, the reflex that whispered, maybe this time. Saturday night. I drove to my parents' house. Same beige siding, same flag on the porch, same truck in the driveway. I brought a bottle of wine. My mother hugged me at the door. We're so sorry we missed it. Truly. pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans from a can. For 10 minutes, it almost felt normal. Then Devin arrived late, dropped his keys on the counter, and just like that, the conversation shifted. Devin, tell Megan about the apartment, my mother said. He was looking at a one-bedroom downtown. My parents were helping with the deposit, $3,000. My mother described the floor plan like she'd already memorized it. I waited for a gap in the conversation. I'm applying to accounting firms in the area. There's one I'm really excited about. My father looked up from his plate. Accounting like taxes? My mother tilted her head. That sounds stable, I guess. Then she turned back to Devin. So when's the move-in date? I cleared the table. 7 plates. I counted them because I needed something to focus on. In the living room, low enough that he thought only Devin could hear it, my father said, "Your sister thinks she's too good for a real job now." I washed all 7 plates, dried them, stacked them, and drove home. The next morning, I woke up at 6 and started applying for jobs, 11 applications before noon. I had a plan. I had a spreadsheet, of course I had a spreadsheet. It tracked every firm I'd applied to, the contact name, the submission date, the follow-up window. I had color-coded it without thinking about it, the way I color-coded everything. Red for no response, yellow for pending, green for scheduled. I wanted a lot of green. Professor Aldrich had emailed the managing partner at Pellman and Associates personally. She hadn't told me she was going to do it. She just did it. The way she did most things that mattered quietly, without making it a moment. I mentioned the interview at the next family dinner. I shouldn't have. My mother leaned forward, forehead creased. Honey, are you sure about this? You're still so young. What if it doesn't work out and it goes on your record? A pause. Devin was earning real money at your age. No stress, no pressure. I said the interview was just a conversation. She nodded slowly, the way she did when she'd already decided you were wrong. 3 days later, my phone rang. Aunt Janet. Megan, congratulations on graduating. I'm sorry I'm late, I just heard. Thanks, Aunt Janet. That really means a lot. She also mentioned you're interviewing somewhere. Your mother called me. She sounded worried and said she hoped you wouldn't be too disappointed. I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling. My mother had taken the one piece of good news I'd shared and repackaged it as a cautionary tale for the extended family. She had made my ambition into her anxiety and then distributed that anxiety to everyone she spoke to and called it concern. That night I called her. Keep my voice even. Did you tell Janet my interview was a waste of time? I was just worried. A mother worries. You twist everything I say. Aunt Janet called me back the next day. Said something I haven't forgotten. Your mother does this, Megan. She did it to your father's co-worker's daughter years ago, too. She has a way of reshaping other people's good news into her own concern. She doesn't know she's doing it. That doesn't make it less of a pattern. It was the first time someone in my family named it out loud. I called Professor Aldrich that evening and told her what had happened. She was quiet for a long moment. Megan, I have watched students like you for 30 years. Bright, capable, and stuck giving progress reports to people who use them as ammunition. Stop sharing. Your success is yours. Guard it. I sat with that for a full day. Then I made a rule. From now on, my family gets nothing new. Not silence, nothing dramatic. Just no new information. No updates. No milestones. No vulnerability. An information diet. I went to my interview at Pellman and Associates on a Tuesday. The office occupied the ground floor of a converted Victorian on Granger Street. Oak floors, tall windows, a receptionist named Ellen who offered me coffee in a real mug. Ellen Pellman, the managing partner, met me in her corner office, 60 years old, silver reading glasses on a chain, a framed CPA license from 1988 on the wall behind her. She had built the firm from a one-room operation above a hardware store on the north side. She asked me the standard questions. Then she set her pen down. Why accounting? I had a rehearsed answer. Something about analytical thinking and career stability. But what came out instead was, because numbers don't care who your parents like more. They either add up or they don't. Ellen Pellman looked at me for 3 full seconds, picked up her pen, wrote something in her notebook that I couldn't see. We'll be in touch, Miss Trent. I shook her hand and walked out into the sunlight on Granger Street. My phone was in my pocket, and for the first time in my life, something good had happened, and I did not reach for it to call my mother. I drove home with the windows down. The air smelled like cut grass and the beginning of summer. I didn't tell anyone about the interview. I kept it mine. entirely mine. That night, I opened Instagram. My mother had posted a new photo, the whole family at a weekend barbecue. Burgers, lawn chairs, Devin flipping something on the grill. Caption: nothing beats family time. I wasn't in the photo, I hadn't been invited. I unfollowed her page, closed the app, and made scrambled eggs for dinner. I ate them standing at the counter, looking out the kitchen window at the parking structure. A pigeon landed on the ledge across the way, looked around, flew off. I went to bed at 9:30. The call came on a Thursday. Ellen Pellman's receptionist. Miss Trent? Ellen would like to offer you the staff accountant position. $58,000 a year, full benefits starting in 2 weeks. I sat down on my kitchen floor. Not dramatically. My knees just went. I accept. I called Professor Aldrich first. She picked up on the first ring. Don't thank me, she said. I'm thanking you anyway. Fine. Buy me lunch when you get your first paycheck. I called Simone next. My best friend since sophomore year, the only person who knew the full inventory of what my family had and hadn't done. She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. She ordered a pizza to my apartment, from across town, pepperoni and mushroom, their personal ceremony protocol, and when it arrived 40 minutes later, she was sitting on my front step waiting for it. We ate it on the floor of my apartment with the offer letter printed out on the coffee table between us. I looked at my phone, my mother's name in my contacts. My thumb hovered. This was the moment I had been preparing for my whole adult life. The proof. The objective, measurable evidence. A real salary, a real title, a real future. Surely now, some old part of me said, surely this is the thing that makes them see it. I put the phone down. For the first time, a good thing had happened, and I chose not to hand it to someone who would shrink it. 2 months into Pellman, I was keeping pace. Ellen gave me more responsibility each week: client reconciliations, quarterly filings, a small business audit that the previous staff accountant had left half-finished. I stayed late without being asked. Not to impress anyone, because the work felt like mine in a way almost nothing else ever had. My first paycheck, I opened a new savings account and transferred $1,200. On top of the $14,000 from the grocery store years and the $3,500 I'd saved in college, I had something I'd never had before. Not a fortune, a foundation. Simone and I grabbed lunch one Friday at the sandwich shop on Daly Street. She was renting a one-bedroom across town, $900 a month, no dishwasher, a landlord who answered maintenance requests with a thumbs-up emoji, and no follow-through. I'll be renting forever, she said, working through a pickle spear. I've been looking at houses. She almost choked. On our salary? FHA loan. 3.5% down. I've been saving since I was 18. She stared at me like I'd said something in a language she didn't quite speak. You're serious? I was serious. I'd been running the numbers on my lunch breaks. A starter home in the Hartwell area, 2 bedrooms, small yard, nothing that required a renovation crew, ran between $120,000 and $150,000. With an FHA loan, I'd need $5,000 to $7,000 down plus closing costs. I had it. I found the house on a Tuesday in November. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. A front porch with a railing that needed paint. White siding, red mailbox, a small backyard with a birch tree. Listed at $137,000 on Sycamore Lane, in the quiet part of Hartwell where the streets had sidewalks and the neighbors actually waved. I didn't realize it until later. Sycamore Lane was 2 blocks off the route my father took every single morning to his job site. He would have driven past it every day without knowing. The closing was on a Friday afternoon in January. I signed 11 pages of documents in a conference room that smelled like fresh printer cartridges and old carpet. Ellen Pellman had given me the afternoon off and told me to bring a good pen. Simone met me outside the title company office with a bottle of sparkling cider and 2 plastic cups. She poured them on the sidewalk in the January cold, and we drank with our coats on, watching our breath, laughing about nothing in particular. I put the key on my ring and drove to my house for the first time as its owner. The porch railing was loose. The kitchen faucet dripped. The closet door in the back bedroom stuck on the frame. It was perfect. I sent my parents one photograph 6 months to the day after graduation. I was standing on the porch, my porch, key in my hand, house number visible above the door, no caption, no message. Just the image. My mother called 47 times in 1 hour. I watched every call come in from the porch steps, sitting in the early afternoon light, drinking my coffee. Beverly Porter from next door was in her front garden, and she kept glancing over with the particular alertness of someone who has learned to recognize a phone that won't stop ringing. Popular today, she called over the fence. Apparently, I said. She smiled like she understood more than she'd been told, which in my experience is the mark of someone who has lived long enough to know what silence in a person usually means. 6 months after my graduation, sitting on a porch I owned, I let 47 calls ring out. I didn't answer a single one. Sunday confrontation. My mother didn't give up after the 47 calls. She switched to text messages, then voicemails. Then she drove past the house twice, I know, because Beverly Porter, who I later learned had been married 49 years and possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of her block, informed me of both passes with the precision of a traffic report. A dark blue sedan, your mother's age, slowed down both times near your mailbox. I didn't go out. I didn't close the curtain. I waited to see what she would do with her own momentum. What she did was send Aunt Janet. Janet showed up on a Saturday afternoon with a foil-covered pan of lasagna and a bottle of wine that was slightly too expensive for a casual visit. She sat at my kitchen table and looked around the way people do when they're memorizing something. "You did this," she said. "You actually did this." "I did." She poured 2 glasses. "Your mother is a mess, Megan. The church ladies are asking questions she can't answer. Your father goes quiet every time someone says your name. Dorothy Finch brought it up last Sunday, and your mother nearly knocked over the communion tray getting out of the pew." I said nothing. Janet gave me a look, not disapproval, just steadiness. "I'm not saying I feel sorry for them. I'm saying they're starting to understand what they did. And that process is ugly." She told me my mother had called her 4 times that week, crying, saying I hated her, saying she didn't deserve this. Janet had listened each time, and then said the same thing. "She doesn't hate you, Cheryl. She just stopped hoping." Janet set her glass down. "That's the hardest thing for a parent to hear. Not 'I hate you,' but 'I don't expect anything from you anymore.' There's no argument against that." I ran my finger around the rim of my glass. "Is it wrong to stop expecting?" "It's honest," she said. "And honesty is all you owe them." We ate lasagna. She told me about her son Derek's new job and Uncle Ray's bad knee and the neighbor's cat that kept digging up the flower bed. Normal things. Family things. The kind of conversation I had stopped having with my own parents so long ago I'd forgotten what it sounded like. When she left, she held me for a long time at the door. "You're doing fine, kid." A pause. "Better than fine." Public collapse. 3 weeks after Janet's visit, I went to church. Not my family's church, mine. A small congregation on the north side of Hartwell that I'd attended a handful of times with Professor Aldrich over the years. I went that Sunday because I needed to sit somewhere quiet that wasn't my own house, and because Aldrich had mentioned offhandedly that she'd be there. I didn't know my mother would be there too. She had come with Dorothy Finch, her friend from the Women's Auxiliary, who attended this church the second Sunday of every month. I saw her before she saw me standing near the side door in her blue blazer, the one she wore to every formal occasion, holding a paper program. She was talking to Dorothy, animated, gesturing with her free hand. I found a seat 3 rows behind them. The service was ordinary. Hymns, scripture, a homily about patience that I half listened to. I was watching the back of my mother's head, the familiar set of her shoulders, the way she laughed at something Dorothy said, and touched her arm. It was after the service, in the side hall where they put out coffee and small cookies, that it happened. Pastor Greer was moving through the room the way pastors do, a word here, a handshake there, and he stopped near the window where I was standing with Professor Aldrich. He looked at me, then at Aldrich. "June, is this the student you've been telling us about?" Aldrich smiled. "Megan Trent. First in her family to graduate college, just got promoted to senior staff accountant. 6 months into her first professional position." Pastor Greer shook my hand with both of his. "That's a remarkable thing, young lady. A remarkable thing." The room was not large, maybe 30 people. The coffee urns were on a folding table to my left. My mother was standing 6 feet away. I heard her go still before I looked at her. The way a sound stops not gradually but completely. Dorothy Finch had also heard. She was looking at my mother with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Cheryl, you must be so proud." Senior accountant at 24. The room waited. Not consciously. No one had planned it. But in the way that small rooms respond to a moment of wait, conversations nearby quieted. Someone set down a coffee cup. Pastor Greer was still standing there. My mother opened her mouth. She closed it. Her eyes found me across the 6 feet between us, and for just a moment, one unguarded, unmistakable moment, she looked the way people look when they understand. completely and publicly, the size of what they have failed to do. She said yes. Of course. That was all. Dorothy looked at her a beat too long. Pastor Greer smiled and moved on. The room refilled itself with conversation. My mother excused herself. She went to get coffee she didn't drink. She stood by the window with her back to the room for a full minute. I didn't go to her. I finished my conversation with Aldrich, ate one of the small cookies, and drove home. I don't know what my mother said to Dorothy Finch on the drive home. I don't know what she said to my father that evening, but Janet called me the next morning. Whatever happened at Pastor Greer's church yesterday, she said, I don't know the details, but your mother called me at 9 last night, and she wasn't crying. She was quiet. And Cheryl quiet is different from Cheryl crying. She paused. I think something shifted. I thought about the look on my mother's face, the 6-foot distance, the question she hadn't been able to answer fast enough. Yes, I said. I think it did. The promotion. 6 months to the day after I started at Pellman, Ellen called me into her office. The room smelled like the lavender candle she kept on the windowsill. Her reading glasses sat on a stack of client folders. She gestured to the chair across from her desk and slid a printed sheet toward me. Your 6-month review. Every category exceeds expectations. Client satisfaction, accuracy, initiative, teamwork 5 for 5. She removed her glasses. I'm promoting you to senior staff accountant, effective next month, and I want you to lead the Harrington account. The Harrington account was the firm's largest client, a regional construction company with complicated books and a founder who didn't trust anyone under 40. That's usually for someone with at least 2 years, I said. Ellen set her glasses on the desk. Usually. But you're not usual, are you, Miss Trent? I shook her hand. My palm was sweating. I did not care, even slightly. In the hallway, Simone was waiting. She had clearly been standing close to the door because her expression was already at maximum wattage. Senior staff in 6 months. She grabbed my arm with both hands. I hate you. I love you. I hate you. That evening, I sat on my front porch with a glass of iced tea and watched the light fade over Sycamore Lane. The street lamps clicked on one by one. Beverly Porter was in her garden, trimming something that didn't need trimming the way she did. I'd come to understand. When she wanted company without asking for it. Your father came by again today. She called over the fence. Sat out front for 12 minutes. I timed him. My father. In his truck, on the street where he drove every morning, now knowing the house he passed was mine. 3 weeks ago, Beverly had told me he sat for 3 minutes, then 5, then 8. He was getting closer, I said. Yes, he was, she said. I know what a man looks like when he's trying to find the words. I sipped my tea, didn't say anything. I could feel it the way you feel a season changing not all at once, but in the weight of the air. The payoff call. Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen in sweatpants and an old Delmar hoodie, pouring my second coffee when I heard a knock. Not the mail carrier, not Simone, not Beverly. I opened the door. My father stood on the porch in his work boots and ball cap. The same boots, the same cap, the ones he had worn every day of my life. They were part of him the way certain things become inseparable from a person, not a choice anymore, just a continuation. In his hands was a small cardboard box. He looked at the box, then at me. I brought this for your back door. The lock you've got on there, it's builder grade. Junk, basically. This one's a commercial. Deadbolt with a bump guard. I use them on job sites. He held the box out. I looked at it. A door lock. Not flowers. Not a card with someone else's words inside. Not an apology speech he'd rehearsed in the truck for 12 minutes. A deadbolt. Because that was the language he knew. Do you want to come in for coffee? He stepped inside, took off his cap, held it in both hands. His eyes moved around the kitchen, the white cabinets, the small window above the sink, the morning light coming in at that particular angle that made the whole room look warmer than it was. Then he stopped. On the wall above the breakfast nook, I had framed my diploma. Nothing ornate, a clean black frame. The same kind I'd used for the accounting certificate that fell behind the trash can years ago, because I liked things simple. And I'd learned early that you didn't need anyone's help to hang your own accomplishments on a wall. My father stared at it. I watched his face do something I had never seen in 24 years of watching his face. His jaw tightened in a specific way. His throat moved. That's your degree? That's my degree. First one in the family. He nodded. Keep nodding, like he couldn't stop. His eyes were wet, not spilling over, just present. The way water fills a glass without overflowing if you're careful. Walter Trent doesn't cry. He never has, not anywhere I could see. But he was close, closer than I'd ever seen him. Closer than I thought he could get. I should have been there, he said. At your graduation, I should have been there. No excuse for it. No redirect. No qualifier. No your mother thought, or it was complicated. Just the truth, plain and unsoftened. Yeah, I said, you should have. He drank his coffee. Then he spent 40 minutes installing the deadbolt on my back door without being asked. Measured twice, drilled clean, tested the bolt 3 times to make sure the throw was aligned. He left the packaging in a neat stack on the back step. He didn't say much else. He didn't need to. That was his I love you. And for the first time, I let it be enough. The confrontation that changes everything. My mother came 3 weeks later. She didn't call ahead. She showed up on a Sunday morning, which I think she knew was the time I was most likely to be home and least likely to have anywhere to be. She stood on my porch in her church clothes, a blue blazer, her good earrings holding a casserole dish covered in foil. I saw her through the kitchen window. I set my coffee down. I opened the door. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, she was the same height, same build, but something in the way she was standing. Like she'd practiced what to say, and then lost the notes. I made the chicken and rice, she said. The way you liked when you were little. Okay. Can I come in? I stepped back. She came in and set the dish on the counter. Looked around the kitchen the way Janet had, the way my father had memorizing it, I think. Building a version of me that fit this space, instead of the version they'd carried around for years. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured her coffee. She wrapped both hands around the mug. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I don't know how to start, she said. Then just start. She looked at the table. I've been thinking about what I said on the phone. On your graduation day. Her voice was careful, deliberate. What I said to you. About already having one success in the family. I remember. That was wrong. She met my eyes. It was a terrible thing to say. I was caught up in the moment, in Devon's news, and I said something I can't take back, and I am sorry for it. I waited. She looked down again. I know I haven't always. She stopped. I tried again. You were always so capable, Megan. You always handled things. And I think I let myself believe that meant you didn't need the same thing, Mom? She was quiet. The same attention, I said to her. The same as showing up. The same 43 minutes in a car. Her chin moved. You drove 43 minutes to Devon's store every Thursday with coffee and conversation for 4 years, I said. Dad did. You both did. I checked the distance once on Google Maps because I kept thinking it must be farther than it felt. It wasn't. 43 minutes. 0 visits in 4 years of college. I know. The truck, I said. $36,000 for a truck the same month I brought home an acceptance letter and you said you didn't have money for tuition. She pressed her lips together. Her eyes were filling. The certificate, I said. The Outstanding Student Award. You put it in the refrigerator under a magnet and the next morning it was on the floor behind the trash can and nobody picked it up. I didn't know. You didn't look. Silence. I had spent years preparing for this conversation, running it through my head at 3 a.m, in the library, on the drive home from dinners I should never have stayed at, and now that it was here, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a release. It was just 2 people sitting across a kitchen table, saying true things that should have been said a long time ago. At Dad's birthday, I said, when the neighbor asked how I was doing, you said I was fine. Independent. Like it was a fact about me that made me require less. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I was proud of that you were independent. Being proud of someone from a distance isn't the same as showing up for them. She nodded. Keep nodding. I know, she said. I know that now. I looked at her. She was close. She was so close to saying the thing I had needed to hear for 6 years. And then she said, I never thought you needed it. You always seemed so fine. There it was. After everything, after 30 minutes of truth-telling and real tears, and a casserole dish on my counter, she's fine. The phrase that had been her shorthand for 24 years. The thing she believed was pride, and had always been an excuse to look away. Mom. She looked at me. The problem was never that I was fine. The problem was that everyone got comfortable treating fine like it was enough. She was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to fix it, she said finally. I'm asking what you need from me. To start, I thought about that. About what I actually needed, not what I'd fantasized about, not the grand gestures or the public acknowledgments I'd once imagined. Show up, I said. When I call, answer. When something good happens, let me tell you about it without turning it into a story about you. And when I tell you something is hard, don't tell me I'm fine. She nodded. I can do that. I know you can. I'm not sure yet whether you will. She flinched, but she didn't argue. She stayed for 2 hours. We talked about things we hadn't talked about in years. Small things, neutral things, the stuff of families who are trying to remember how to occupy the same room. She told me the birch tree in my backyard looked healthy. I told her the closet door in the back room is still stuck sometimes. When she left, she hugged me at the door, held on a little longer than usual. I didn't pull away. I also didn't promise anything I wasn't sure of. The door wasn't locked, but I wasn't handing out keys. A few days after my mother's visit, I was unpacking the last box from the back bedroom winter things, old textbooks, things that had followed me from apartment to apartment and never quite found a place. At the bottom of the box, tangled in a scarf, I found the wire hanger, the one from the bathroom in my old apartment, the one I'd used to zip up my graduation gown when no one was there to help. I held it in both hands. A wire hanger, the kind the dry cleaners send back with your clothes, the kind everyone keeps meaning to throw out. Bent at the hook from where I'd worked it through the zipper pull. 3 attempts, a little patience, and it was caught. I had walked across that stage magna cum laude. I had signed $47,000 worth of invoices for my own education. I had written 47 pages of cover letters, reconciliations, and client reports. I had sat on this porch and watched 47 calls go unanswered, and felt for the first time like the quiet was entirely mine. I hung the hanger on the closet rod in my back bedroom, not as a symbol, not as a trophy, just as a thing that had been useful when I needed it, and might be useful again. And then I went to make coffee and sit on my front porch in the morning light. I didn't need the right tools. I needed to stop waiting for someone to hand them to me. Here is what I know now. I am 24 years old. I have a degree on my wall, a promotion on my desk, and a mortgage in my name. I have a front porch with a railing I repainted last weekend white to match the siding, because I like things clean and simple, and I get to like whatever I want in a house that is mine. I have a neighbor named Beverly who timed my father's visits with the steady accuracy of someone who has been paying attention to people for 70 years. I have a best friend who ordered pizza from across town the day I got hired and was already sitting on my step when it arrived. I have a professor who bought yellow tulips and drove 40 minutes to sit in a family section that was mostly empty because she had decided I was worth showing up for. I have a father who is learning, slowly and imperfectly, to say things he has no practice saying, who shows up on Saturday mornings with his toolbox and fixes the things he can reach. Last week, it was the leaky faucet under the bathroom sink. The week before, the closet door kept sticking. He doesn't say much. He doesn't need to. He fixes things. That is his language. And I am learning to hear it. My mother hasn't come back yet. Not since that Sunday. She sends messages through Janet, sometimes tell Megan I miss her, and I read them, but I haven't responded. The door is unlocked, but she hasn't tried the handle again. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll find a way to show up that isn't a casserole and a half apology. I'm leaving that possibility open, the way you leave a window cracked in a room that needed air. Devin came by on a Thursday evening, unannounced, which in hindsight was the most honest thing he'd done in years. He didn't call first because he knew I might say no. He knocked twice, then stood back from the door like he wasn't sure he had the right house. I let him in. He looked around the kitchen the same way everyone did the white cabinets, the framed degree above the breakfast nook, the small window over the sink. He stopped at the degree for longer than he should have. Dad told me, he said, the graduation, and then the promotion. I know. He sat down at the kitchen table without being invited, which was also honest. He put his hands flat on the table and looked at them. I said something at the party, he said. About calculators. I remember. I thought it was funny. He paused. I know that doesn't. It wasn't. He nodded. Stayed quiet. His hands were still flat on the table. I've been thinking, he said, and then he stopped. Like he'd gotten to the edge of something and wasn't sure whether to step off. Say it, I said. Dad's toast. At his birthday, he talked about me for 3 minutes. He exhaled slowly. He talked about rolling up your sleeves and getting it done. And the whole time you were sitting right there, at the same table. And nobody said your name. No, I said. Nobody did. I laughed, Devin said. At my own father's toast. About me. While you sat there, he looked up for the first time. And I drove home in a truck they bought me. And I was going to move into an apartment they put down $3,000 for. And you were sitting in a studio apartment. You paid for yourself after paying $47,000 for a degree nobody came to see you get. The kitchen was very quiet. I didn't think about it that way at the time, he said. That's the part I can't get out of my head. Not that I was wrong, that I genuinely didn't think about it at all. I looked at him. My brother, 27 years old, who had grown up in a house where he was the story and I was the supporting detail, and who had lived so comfortably inside that arrangement that he had never once needed to question it. I know, I said. I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it. I kept my voice even. It already happened. What you can do is stop doing it. He nodded. Keep nodding. He stayed for an hour. We talked, awkwardly and carefully, the way people talk when they're building something from materials that aren't quite the right shape. He asked about the house, about the Harrington account, about the birch tree in the backyard, which was the kind of question that had no subtext and therefore felt safe. When he left, he shook my hand at the door. Not a hug, a handshake, firm, his father's grip. I didn't know then whether it would hold, whether the awareness he'd walked in with would last past the drive home, past the next family dinner, past the next time our parents centered him without meaning to, but he had come to my door without being asked. And he had said the thing without me having to say it first. That was not nothing. The thing I want to say, the thing I wish I'd understood earlier. I didn't need them to see my value. I needed to stop discounting it in front of them. Every time I minimized what I'd done, it's just the dean's list. It's just an interview. It's just a job I was doing their work for them. Every time I waited for their permission to feel proud of something, I was handing them a veto they hadn't earned. I had 47,000 reasons to believe I was worth investing in. It took me too long to be the one who said so. 6 years of calculators, $47,000, a wire hanger on a closet rod in a house where the mortgage is in my name. I am finally, completely, in the black. Here is the last thing I'll tell you. It's a Saturday morning, early, the light is still thin. In the back bedroom, on the closet rod, there is a wire hanger, bent at the hook. Nobody has moved it. In the kitchen, the coffee is on. I'm in my chair on the front porch, both hands around the mug, watching Sycamore Lane wake up. From the backyard, I can hear my father. A drill, twice, then quiet. He's been back there 40 minutes, the fence post that's been leaning since January. He didn't ask if he could fix it. He just brought his tools. At the end of the block, a dark blue sedan slows down. It doesn't stop. It drives past once, then turns around at the corner and drives past again, slower. I watch it over the rim of my mug. Beverly Porter, who is already in her garden at 7:15, because she is always in her garden at 7:15, straightens up and looks at the sedan. Then look at me. I shake my head once. Small, she nods. Goes back to her roses. The sedan idles at the corner for a moment. Then it turns and drives away. The drill starts again in the backyard. I finish my coffee. The wire hanger is still on the rod. If you've ever been called fine when what they actually meant was convenient, if you've ever sat in a room full of people who were supposed to show up for you and looked at the space where they were supposed to be, type porch in the comments. If you've ever watched someone else get celebrated for something you quietly surpassed years ago and smiled anyway, because that's what you were trained to do, type wire hanger, and tell me how long it took you to stop. And here's the question I keep coming back to. If they called you 47 times right now, would you answer? I'm still not entirely sure I made the right choice, but I know I made mine.